The Instinct of Human Freedom. From Commando Courageous, a Boer's Diary, by Roland William Schikkerling. This is a diary I kept during the Boers' guerrilla war with England. In it I have faithfully and to the best of my skill dealt with the vicissitudes and trials of those of us who chose to follow to the end our country's fortunes. The events were recorded at the time, many of the notes being made in the saddle, and they have now slumbered in manuscript for nearly 50 years. It is an intimate narrative, speaking much of myself and my immediate friends, written between my 20th and my 22nd years. Much of the incident is personal, and much of the war is incidental. It is written not from the point of view of marshals and generals, but from that of one who fought and suffered with private burghers, who shared their mirth and sorrow in the field, and their unexpurgated talk round the campfires. But within these limits, save where I am obviously jesting, it is the whole truth. I have registered our villainies as well as our good deeds, and so, I hope, have simplified the task of the recording angel. In the panting times of the last days, my book, and indeed all my dearest chattels, were fastened to my person. For, as the days grew grimmer, and when all animate nature seemed to rise against us, we had, time and again, to leave our belongings on the stricken field. In this way, that part of my diary carrying events to November 1900 was lost. But possessing notes of the incidents, which were moreover vividly impressed on my memory, I had no difficulty in rewriting it immediately after. For the 18 months prior to the declaration of peace, however, the chronicle is uninterrupted. If I have not always spoken of the enemy with loving kindness, I have never shown the bitterness which is so common among non-combatants, but so rare among soldiers who have fought hand to hand and confronted one another at the parapet. We were beaten, but not conquered, and silhouetted against our setting sun, we defile for a moment on the horizon of history. I dedicate this to my companions who fell, and trust that if the eye of posterity does not fall upon them, the corroding years will not deal harshly with their memory. Towards the end of September 1899, we of the Transvaal were greatly embarrassed, and at our wits' end to know which of many courses to follow, each endangering our precious independence. England, since she could not by soft measures obtain from us the privileges and favours she desired, sought, by crowding her troops against our borders, to awe us into granting what would be tantamount to handing over our country with cold hands. We knew we had either to yield to her demands and see forever pass away the freehold of the land, to which our title is written upon every portion in the blood of our great-grandfathers and the tears of our great-grandmothers, and marked out by their sacred graves, or to decide the quarrel by recourse to arms, which, at the worst, could only bring about the same issue, but would leave us free from all reproach, that we had not done our utmost to defend our birthright. If we had remained passive and relied upon protests and petitions, who would have heard us? If we had not beaten the English all along the line in 1881, who would have bothered about the Boer wrongs or discovered that there was any righteousness in their cause? I have some authority for saying this. For did they not yield to force what they refused to mere entreaty? War is a brutal business, yet there are alternatives that justify it. England's forces on our frontiers were increasing, and we knew to what end. We had therefore, as men, no choice but to send out the challenge immediately, before the odds became impossible, and before we were quite at bay. War was bound to come, for the Boer and the Briton despised each other, and would never have been satisfied until the dispute had been settled by arms. The Boer looked upon England as his hereditary enemy, and a memory of many wrongs stirred in his heart. England had, in the beginning, presumed upon him when he was too weak to resist. She had wrung from him possession after possession, looking upon each such act as a precedent to be strained at every later opportunity. When one man so unjustly deals another as to blind him to reason, then he dare not in return expect normal treatment, or indeed common justice. Though he dare not expect it, I shall not say it is not the duty of others still to render it. The English too hated us on account of the injustices they had done to us, because they were beaten at Mayuba, because they had taken our diamonds. And now the hatred was intensified when they found we still had gold. Gold in even greater abundance than ever had been heard of, in tale or in history. This they coveted, and as a pretext for laying hands on it, spread the legend that we misruled the gold grabbers and the adventurers who came entirely for their own mercenary ends. The English newspapers, not out to comfort us, each day told how the border bristled with bayonets, was guarded by armoured trains which no projectile, however powerful, could penetrate, and was armed with guns that threw shells filled with a potent explosive called lyddite, which, according to reports, could blow away a hill and kill every living thing within a mile radius. We soon found, however, that the shells on which they relied principally were filled with bluff. These things were disturbing, but we had already hardened our hearts and stiffened our stomachs for war. I confess I saw very little hope of, for us, a successful issue. But why need there be hope? And who of so little spirit as to regard the odds when so much was at stake? I speak for such only as have the instinct for human freedom.